Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of The Role of Law. Of course, we are living in unprecedented times. It's the time of the COVID-19 pandemic that is, of course, spreading across the world. We call it the new normal, as experts opine that we will have to live under these restricted conditions for the foreseeable future until, of course, a vaccine comes out and that vaccine is properly distributed among everyone. Of course, speaking about the role of law when it comes to regulating society in such troubled times, it is of paramount importance that we have proper legislation governing us to face these unprecedented times. And to discuss these matters and more, how the law can assist us in protecting the people or the health of the people in this country, we have with us today President's Counsel U.R. De Silva, the former President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. A very good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
Very good evening.
So, of course, it's a known fact that the current regulations that are being drafted here in Sri Lanka to control the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic are made under the Quarantine and Prevention of Diseases Ordinance. Now, this piece of legislation is over 100 years old. Let's first start off with a look at a few of the provisions in this piece of legislation.
The Quarantine and Disease Prevention Ordinance was first passed into law in the year 1897. Although this piece of legislation is over a century old, it is being used even today to gazette regulations to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Under Section 2 of the ordinance, the Minister may make, revoke and vary regulations to prevent the introduction and spread of diseases in the country. Section 3 lays down the matters in respect of which regulations may be made. However, the proviso to Section 3 states that nothing in this section shall in any way restrict or be construed to restrict the generality of the powers conferred on the Minister by Section 2. According to Section 4, anyone who contravenes these regulations or obstructs or assists in contravening the regulations shall be guilty of an offence. If anyone is convicted of this offence, they may be sentenced to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 6 months or a fine not exceeding 1,000 rupees. Section 12 of the ordinance requires all regulations made under the ordinance to be published in the Gazette. The regulations come into effect from the date of such publication in the Gazette.
President's Counsel U.R. De Silva, we see that this piece of legislation that is currently being used to draft regulations to control the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic has conferred broad powers upon the minister. Of course, these powers would have been quite relevant back in the day, in the 1900s, when this piece of legislation was drafted. But does this piece of legislation require reform to suit the current times?
At the moment, what we say is this was brought to enactment is done in 1897, Act number 3 of 1897. Merely because it is very old, we can't say we will do away with that, because our penal code is done in 1883, Act number 2 of 1883. And then the evidence ordinance was enacted in 1895, Act number 14 of 1895. So those old enactments are there, and we want to have some amendments. So with this particular act, that is, as you mentioned, number 3 of 1897, we have done lot of things during earlier situation. For the first time, when we come across that particular incident, and then we tried to do lot of changes, but unfortunately we were not in a position to do so. The parliament was closed, and then the minister is doing that, because this particular enactment stated that the minister, earlier the governor, but subsequently the minister can provide or can put up a lot of gazette notifications and then go on with that. Because of that, as you know, that in 1925 we came across that type of a situation.
Spanish flu.
That's right. So then because of that, we put up a special gazette notification, and thereafter in 1960 this particular gazette notification came into operation. Then only recently we had this 2020 we had that experience. So that of course given the opportunity, the minister gave permission or the power to the Director General of
Health Services.
So thereafter, the Director General has the power to deviate and then give powers to the police. On that occasion, the police took over, and thereafter they implement those things that are there in the gazette notification. So what I am saying is, at that point, we knew that Parliament is not there, and we can't have new laws enacted. Because of that, we were able to go through these things because of this strong 1897 enactment. So that particular act covers everything. When we go through it, it was enacted because earlier we had that 1883 under Penal Code, we have had a special chapter, chapter 14. There we have 262, 263 and 264 with regard to those areas. So people thought that people in power, they thought that we have to have a special enactment for this pandemic situation. That is why they thought that 1897 they have to have this particular act. So my idea would be, my suggestion would be, we must change the law according to the present situation, because as you quite correctly pointed out, we have to live with this corona situation, and then quarantine is part of our day-to-day life now. So we are talking every time the quarantine situation.
Exactly.
So now at this stage, 18 police divisions are being prohibited. Now they have implemented curfew with regard to restriction of movements. That is, we call police curfew because of this particular
they call it quarantine curfew.
Quarantine curfew, that is restricting the movements. That's what they do. So this is not the curfew imposed under emergency laws. Right. So this is not the curfew that President is going to impose because of the situation of the country. This is of course particular purpose, and then as you said, quarantine curfew.
Of course, the Constitution of Sri Lanka grants every citizen a fundamental right to freedom of movement. And according to the constitutional procedures that have been laid down, one of the ways of restricting this constitutional fundamental right that has been given to Sri Lankans is through emergency regulations. However, with the preservation of existing laws, the Article 16 that has been included in the Constitution, these laws too have been preserved. But do you believe it's fair on the part to restrict the movements of people so haphazardly, or sometimes, of course, under requirement, but to restrict the freedom of movements of people, especially when it affects their economies, their ability to feed their children? Shouldn't there be additional regulations also included in this act, or in form of other statutory enactment, to provide for these people if by chance their freedom of movement is restricted?
It should be, because now the country has developed, and then the society is developed now, so we must have some sort of regulations where, as you said, haphazardly you can't do that. So anybody can take the decision and then you are going to implement. It is not good for the country. But at this particular juncture, we used to do it, but unfortunately we never thought of having this again. The second wave we never expected. So people never expected that, though we talk about other countries.
But experts warned of it.
Very well. It was there right through, but we saw the other countries behaving, and then what happened to the other countries, but we thought we will not suffer in that way. So that is why they never expected, even the government, though they stated like that way, they never tried to change the laws, because they thought it will deteriorate, and then we can solve or control, at least to control to some extent this particular pandemic situation. But unfortunately now we realize that it was not the case. So we have to live with it, and if you are going to live with it, we have to change the laws. So especially the enactment is there, we can have amendments, and then strong amendments should be there to strengthen this particular act. Merely because you put up a gazette notification and then ask them to do this and that is not, I think, is enough viable. So that is why I say we have to think fast and think loud, and we must implement those new things to this particular act.
Of course, taking a leaf from some things that have been done by other developed countries, especially a jurisdiction where we draw a lot of case law from, the United Kingdom, for example. They've enacted the Coronavirus Act 2020, and among other things, this Coronavirus Act goes so far even to prescribe the mechanism of distribution of vaccines among the general public when a vaccine does come out. Now we know that we always hope for the best, and we hope for the best and we expect the worst, but it's quite inevitable that a vaccine would come along. There are certain vaccines that are currently in clinical trials, first stage, second stage, third stage. It's imminent that a vaccine will come out. And when a vaccine does come out, especially in Sri Lanka, do we have a procedure to distribute this vaccine? And is there a need for laws to be drafted for this purpose?
Our normal system would be, when it comes to our country, only
then we will think about it.
Think about and then go here and there and do the needful. So, but as you said, now it is high time to decide and then do that, because earlier when the plague was there, we had the opportunity to have the vaccine, and then we did it, and then we were able to eradicate it, because we did it in a way that all people get the benefit. So then here also, if the people should get the benefit, then we must have that laws enacted and then proceed further. And as you said, now when we were talking about quarantine procedure also, to that also we must have special laws. Otherwise, merely because they come here and when we want to quarantine them, then we send them to various places. I think it should not be done.
So even when a foreign citizen comes into Sri Lanka, it should not be a selective quarantine procedure.
That's right, yeah.
There should be a mandated. Is there currently under regulations at least a mandated time period that people must stay in quarantine?
That's, of course, earlier it was there for 14 days. This particular enactment came into power. If you go to the history, 1377 in Croatia, this was started, because there's a province called Durban and then Ragusa province. They thought that a lot of people coming from the ships, and then to prohibit them bringing the virus into the country, so they thought that we must have quarantine procedure. That is how this was started, and then it was brought to the country, and then in 1897 only we enacted that procedure. And that procedure, of course, they have gone into the various details. Now for this type of situation, in present context, we have to have a proper mechanism for them to go and have that quarantine thing. Then earlier it was 14 days, subsequently then they went to 21 days, because in Christianity they think that 40 days is a particular period where you should have be there inside a particular room. When a lady given birth to a child, they thought a 40 days period is a particular period where you have to be safe, right? Because of that, they adopted that situation from this Christianity. Then they thought that 14 days is enough. Then thereafter they considered 21 days. Here, of course, earlier we started 14 days, and then they said 14 days is not enough. You have to be there inside the house for another 14 days.
So 14 days quarantine and 14 days self-quarantine.
That's correct. That is how at the moment, but it is not properly enacted in a particular piece of legislation. That is why we say we have to have a special laws for that type of period, and then it is mandatory thing. So then nobody can escape from that. So if somebody is not going to do that, then he had to face the consequences.
Definitely. Also, moving on, some of the powers that have been conferred under this act through the minister, of course, is the power to acquire any plot of land, any building or any complex for the purpose of quarantine. Now, of course, we knew at the time, like you said before, at the time that this enactment was brought into power, we were under colonial rule, under a king per se. So the king is above the law. The king can do all.
That's good.
Right now, of course, when a certain location is taken or acquired for quarantine procedure, there are, of course, expenses that that person, the owner of that building, will have to incur, and it's common practice that government, or anyone for that matter, compensate these people. Does the minister have any power under the law to compensate these institutions? That
compensation, of course, we have to discuss later. Only thing is, at the moment, they can get property or any vehicle like thing into custody, and then they can use it for some
quarantine
purpose, or else if they are not adhere to law and they are using it for the violation of these particular rules, then they can take into custody, but they can't confiscate.
Well, there were instances where vehicles were taken into custody and they said they will confiscate it, but it never happened, I believe.
In the sense that you can't do that
under the law.
And under the particular situation, under the law in this country, you can't do that. This is not a thing that they are using it for a particular purpose. They go in that, and then police will take into custody a particular person as well as the vehicle. So what the government should do is that they should have a particular prohibition and then say that if it is taken into custody, it will be produced before the magistrate, and thereafter confiscation procedure should be adopted. Because of that, I think tomorrow or day after, they will publish a special gazette notification for them to do the needful.
Another area that has caused quite a stir in Sri Lanka, of course, is the privacy of these patients. Now, we saw in the recent past many footage of people who have been taken to quarantine. Sometimes it's your neighbors or people around you who just take their cell phone out and start recording. This deals a serious blow on the privacy of these people, and it also affects us in the long run, in the broader picture of getting people to come out and say, you know, I have these symptoms, I might be a COVID-19 patient, conduct a PCR test on me. People get scared. Shouldn't the government also look towards introducing laws to prevent this situation and protect the privacy of these patients?
They have to do that, because earlier they had a discussion with the, especially we saw the PHI. They were doing a good thing and they were doing a good service, but unfortunately they were of the view their duty to expose these people. That is how it went on. And then the media people also going behind, and they take the footages, as you said quite correctly, and they publish it. It is totally incorrect procedure. So that was brought to the notice of those people, and it was not there to some extent. But again, now we saw when we saw the second wave, they are here, of course, they are also doing the same thing. They are showing the people who are being taken for these quarantine purposes. So it is not good, and then it should, there is no provision. Only thing is where we say it should not be done. That's all. So we must have that legislative enactments to do the prohibit those people doing that, and if they are violating it, they can be punished.
So of course, under the Quarantine Act, or the Quarantine Ordinance, as we call it for short, could the minister bring in regulation to do this, or is there a need for special legislation to be passed in Parliament?
Now
separately?
we have the Parliament proceedings are going on, so immediately I think the minister will take connivance of that, and thereafter he will bring the necessary legislation to strengthen this particular act. Otherwise, every time if you are going to put up a
new regulation
by way of a gazette notification, it's not good for the country. So immediately we have to do that, because we never expected this second wave, as I told you earlier. But now we have to realize it should be there for some time. It is there for some time, and then if you are going to ignore those things, I think it is not good for the society.
Also, another massive issue that has come to the forefront, become a national debate, is mental health. Now, recently we celebrated World Mental Health Day, and it's a recognized fact around the world and here in Sri Lanka as well that mental health is as important, if not more important, than your physical health. But the normal practice here in Sri Lanka is that we don't give too much of importance to mental health. Now, when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic and the fact that we need to live with this pandemic for the foreseeable future, many people have lost their jobs. Many people don't know where they will be next week. Many people don't have houses. They don't have food to feed their children. This brings in a lot of mental stress. And is there adequate protection for these kind of people in the frame of the law?
There are provisions where you can rehabilitate people with these mental conditions, with regard to mental conditions. But we saw that especially with regard to children, when they were there for some time inside the house. Now that is why I think the government has done a good thing by having this scholarship examination as well as the
advanced level examination.
Because if they prohibit that or they stopped it, it will be a big repercussion, because they were there for some time and they were expecting a lot of things to do, and their mental condition is not up to the mark. So to avoid that, the government has done a good thing, I suppose, but to rehabilitate, procedure should be adapted immediately. It is there in our law, so there should be proper mechanism, and centers should be there for them to go and have those rehabilitation program. Because as you said, especially the day-to-day workers, they lose jobs. Suddenly police say that you can't have this, areas are prohibited.
Under lockdown.
Under lockdown to some extent at this stage. As I told you, only 18 police divisions at the moment, but it will, if it is going to be worse situation, then we have to spread to the country even. For that purpose, if we are going to keep those people inside, merely because you say that we are giving 5,000 rupees, that is not enough. We can't go on like that. So to do that, to rehabilitate those people, the mental condition should be rehabilitated by having those places where specialized people should be there to give some instruction for them to come to normal life.
Well, there have been a number of regulations that, as I said before, that have been issued under this specific piece of legislation, the quarantine ordinance. But none of these regulations really specify the manner in which quarantine centers should be run. There are no, well, legal requirements on how these quarantine centers should be run. Many of them are run, of course, by the military. But speaking on the subject of mental health, would it be better if there is an expert in mental health or a psychologist, psychiatrist at these facilities, especially because we're confining people in these places for 14 to 28 days, and you know, the mind of a person is a very unpredictable thing, and we saw instances of people even running away from quarantine centers.
Right, yeah.
And all of these could have been prevented if these measures have been taken. Do you believe there's a requirement for a set of guidelines or a set of regulations to be issued on how quarantine centers exactly should function?
At the moment, army personnel, they are doing a good job, and they were handling everything, and they give the maximum benefit to the people. They are 100% sure that they are doing their job correctly, and they are doing it also. They did it earlier, and they show to the country that they have the capacity to do that. But the fact remains, the mental condition, as we discussed, that of course it should be done by the expertise. So for that purpose, the minister should take special interest for them to go to that particular centers or to visit. And then now we saw PHI, they go to the places and they ask not to go. So that is how they do. So that is their job, and they have done it they have done it perfectly, and I think we must appreciate their work. And in the meantime, if the people there around the area, especially the medical people, if they can go to visit those areas and to their houses and give some instruction and then discuss with them about the situation and then explain them, and then thereafter what is there inside the quarantine centers. Most of the people, they think that they will be sentenced to remand prison. So that is why they run without going to the centers, because army personnel, they say we are looking after you all, and the government yesterday released a lot of money to rehab these quarantine centers. Because of that, they are doing their job, and we must have some new centers also. At the moment they are doing it, but we are not stating what is there inside. So if we are in a position to explain it in a way through the media, and then if the people come to know this is what is happening, and we have to have occasion to do our normal day-to-day things inside the places where we don't have to come out and mix with other people, but we can do some work. If a person is writing, he can do so, and then painting can be done. Those things, but we have seen it when earlier situation, they have done it, and we saw it through the media, but it was not published properly.
So people are scared.
That's correct. So if we can show to them that there won't be any restrictions as far as you are not allowed to go in, there are no restrictions for you to do your work inside. If a person is doing online thing, so he can do it inside the premises also. We must provide them the necessary equipment and facilities also. I think they are giving those facilities to them. But if we are not allowing them to come to know those things, then of course those people will think that it is a remand prison, and we are not getting anything.
So we're in the final few minutes of our show, and we really need to squeeze this important section of the debate into this final few minutes. Although we are in the new normal, we cannot abandon the rule of law. We cannot abandon our democratic rights, the democratic procedures that this republic is established upon, and the freedoms and rights of the people. And that's one of the main reasons why there is a massive requirement for the judiciary of this country to function efficiently as it was before, and maybe even more so given the number of added cases that are coming in because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So when it comes to court hearings, we are always accustomed to in-person hearings. You know, you go to court, your lawyer comes to court, the judge is seated in front of you, and the case is heard. But of course, under new normal, this is highly risky. What is the alternative to this?
Already during the earlier situation, we have taken necessary precautions, because the Legal Aid Commission asked me to go and participate for that particular discussion, where we discussed not to bring all the prisoners to courthouses, because according to our law, if the person is in remand, you have to bring him every 14 days
before a magistrate.
And then magistrate will ask, what are you going to say, anything to be done, and then if the bail is being the subject, then the lawyer can make an application for bail. Likewise, it is there in our law. So if we are not in a position to bring those people because of this pandemic situation, then what is the next step? So we have adapted the situation where they don't have to come to the courthouse. They will be there in a particular room where the screen is there, so the magistrate can see them through the screen which is there inside the courthouse. And then thereafter they can communicate each other, and the lawyer also be there inside the courthouse and make an application for bail, or even if you want to say anything with regard to his client, he can say so, and then the judge will say that your next date will be this one. So likewise, it should be adapted in whole country. So we have started in Colombo, and we have given the Legal Aid Commission in collaboration with UNDP. They have given these laptops to the magistrates and then to the remand prisoners or remand prisons also, where they are using it. Now, what I say is, immediately we have to adapt that portion and then go on, and in future also we don't have to bring all these people to the courthouses. Without doing that, the magistrate or the judge can extend the remand prison and do the needful, and thereafter, if it is needed, they can visit to the remand prison every month. There is a provision where the magistrate should visit every month, once in every month, to the particular remand prison and discuss with those people. So those matters, of course, can be done through system where we are not in a, at the moment we will adjust ourselves to that portion, and if the minister is ready to proceed with, I think it is a good movement
for the future as well.
And then we can develop that portion, and we can allow the remand prisoners relations to go there and have a discussion with the
also through video technology.
Using the video technology.
Of course, these are not the only provisions that could be brought in. This is a simple half-an-hour discussion regarding what possible developments could be made to the Quarantine and Disease Prevention Ordinance. As you mentioned before, sir, we've been governed by age-old legislation for quite a long time. That does not necessarily mean that we need to do away with it lock, stock and barrel. It just means that either they need improvements so that they may better suit the current times. Thank you very much, President's Counsel UR De Silva, for joining us on our show and educating the general public regarding these reforms that we will need in our country if we are to live successfully under the new normal conditions, as it has been called right now. Thank you very much to all our viewers out there also for tuning in to The Role of Law. We'll see you again, same time, same place next week. Until then, take care and God bless.